I couldn't believe what I was seeing as I rolled onto Maple Ridge Drive that Friday evening. Picture this. I'm bone tired. My car's running on fumes. All I want is to put my feet up and forget about the world for a weekend. But instead, I'm greeted by a brand new wooden fence right across my own driveway. I mean, this thing wasn't subtle. It looked like it'd been built with the express purpose of saying keep out and standing beside it with her arms folded. And that classic self-satisfied smirk was none other than Karen Thompson, the HOA president, the absolute last person I wanted to see after the week I'd had. You ever get that feeling where you're so annoyed you almost laugh? Yeah, that was me. I rolled down my window, tried to keep it civil. Excuse me, what's all this? And Karen, bless her heart, marches right up like she owns the street and says, "This is an emergency HOA improvement, Mr. Peterson. The board voted unanimously to install proper boundary markers. You'll need to park on the street from now on." Just like that, like she's reading me a parking ticket. I gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles went white. I wanted peace and quiet when I moved here, not another power trip in human form blocking my driveway. For context, I'm Richard Peterson. Folks at City Hall call me Mayor. But when I bought this 3-bed ranch on Maple Ridge, I didn't want anybody knowing my business. I even used my middle name on the deed, hoping to just be that quiet guy next door, you know? After a lifetime of running things for 200,000 people, I was ready to disappear into a garden and let the world keep spinning without me. But fate has a funny sense of humor. I traded politics for HOA headaches, and honestly, I'm not sure which is worse. Karen had it out for me from the jump. First morning after I moved in, she's at my door with a clipboard, doesn't say hi, doesn't even smile, just tells me my mailbox isn't regulation. Black needs to be repainted within 72 hours, or I'll be fined $50. That was the opening shot. After that, it was something new every week. Grass an inch too tall, car, 2 commercial-looking hedges, not precisely trimmed. I tried playing nice, thinking if I just went along, she'd eventually lose interest, but you know how it goes with people like that. The more you give, the more they take. Next thing I know, she's blocking my garbage pickup by parking her bins so the truck can't get to mine, scheduling emergency HOA meetings. At times she knows I can't attend, then passing new rules that just happen to target my property. Still, this fence. This was a new low. So I step out of the car, keeping my voice even. No reason to give her the satisfaction, and say, "Karen, this fence is on my property. You can't just build stuff on land you don't own." She waves a fat stack of papers in my face, real dramatic, and tells me, according to the original subdivision plans from 1987, this strip of land is a common area easement, and the HOA has full authority. If you'd bothered to read your covenant agreements, you'd know that. Yeah, I'd read every word. Hell, I'd read the actual surveys and city records. But you know how arguing with people like Karen goes, logic just bounces right off them. I told her I'd need to see those documents myself. She tells me to come to the next HOA meeting in 3 weeks. Until then, the fence stays. And of course, she points out her freshly installed security camera, making it clear if I even thought about moving so much as a nail, she'd have me on criminal damage to HOA property. The amount of prep she'd put into this, honestly, I almost had to respect the hustle. But if Karen wanted a war over city ordinances, she picked the wrong guy. First call I made was to Tom Rodriguez over at the zoning department. "Tom, it's Richard. Got an unpermitted structure on my property. Can you check the records for 4567 Maple Ridge?" He's all business. Says he'll have an inspector there within the hour. Next, I'm on with Sarah Martinez, building department director, and then Jim Watson from code enforcement. Before I'd finished my coffee, I'd lined up a whole parade of city officials ready to descend on Maple Ridge like it was D-Day. While I waited, I did a little neighborhood recon, knocked on a few doors. What I heard didn't surprise me one bit. Karen had been making life miserable for everyone on the block. Forced an elderly couple to take down their grandkids' bird bath. Made the young family down the street remove their kid's swing set. Everyone had a story, and none of them were happy ones. Most folks were just too beaten down or scared to push back. 45 minutes later, Tom Rodriguez rolls up in his city truck, followed by Sarah and Jim. And wouldn't you know it, Karen must have been watching from her window because she flies out of her house yelling at Tom, "You have no authority here. This is HOA business, Tom." Cool as a cucumber, just keeps snapping photos, tells her, "Ma'am, every building in this city requires permits. Doesn't matter who builds it." Karen's losing it, screaming about harassment, threatening to have me arrested for a false complaint, but Sarah's already out with the measuring tape, calm as you please. "Ma'am, this structure crosses into a private driveway easement. Do you have a building permit?" Karen's voice climbs higher. I don't need a permit. I'm the HOA president. That's when Sarah, without missing a beat, tells her everyone needs permits, writes out a stop work order, and slaps a violation notice on the fence. Karen's face goes so red I swear she could have boiled water just by glaring. She starts shouting about lawsuits, says she'll have everybody's jobs, classic stuff. And I'm just standing there soaking it in, knowing exactly what's coming next. Now here's where it gets good. I figured it was time to play my own card, so I stepped forward, cleared my throat, and yeah, maybe I enjoyed this part. Told her, actually, Karen, the better question is whether you know who I am. She squints at me like she's seeing me for the first time, then spits, "You're nobody, just some weekend visitor." I pull out my city ID, let her see it, and say, "I'm Richard Peterson, mayor of this city. And you just committed about half a dozen municipal code violations, illegal construction blocking private access, you name it." You could hear a pin drop. Karen's jaw works, but no sound comes out. Tom, Sarah, even Jim. They're all holding back grins. She tries, "You're lying." I hold up my ID. "I bought this house for peace and quiet. Instead, I've got 3 months worth of your nonsense and now this." I ask Tom what the penalty is for building something like this without a permit on someone else's property. Tom checks his tablet, tells her it's $5,000 for the permit violation, another $5 for encroachment, plus $500 a day, until it's gone. Karen's voice drops to a whisper. "But I'm the HOA president," Sarah chimes in. "Which means you should know better." And that's before Jim comes back and tells her they've counted 7 separate violations and the fines could go over $20,000, not counting removal costs. Karen almost collapses, clutching the fence like it's going to save her. I add, just for good measure, that I have months of emails showing targeted harassment and abuse of authority, and that my attorney's filing a formal complaint with the state. But first I say we need an emergency HOA meeting tonight. Word spreads faster than wildfire. That night the community center's packed. Folks who never showed up before are there all quietly hopeful. Karen sits alone at the head table. The people she called friends, nowhere in sight. When I introduce myself as the mayor and lay out what's happened, the illegal fence, the years of harassment, people start to murmur. I say, "I've heard your stories, swing sets, bird baths, fines for every little thing. That ends now." Karen jumps to her feet, practically hissing that she's protected property values for 5 years. "By terrorizing your neighbors," I ask. The room erupts in nervous laughter. I move for a vote of no confidence, and before I finish the sentence, a dozen hands shoot up to second it. When the vote comes, it's unanimous. Karen is out, not a single hand raised for her. I tell the room I'll work with the city council to get some real oversight for HOAs so this never happens again. And as for the fence, it's coming down at her expense. Next morning, I'm sipping coffee by the window, watching a work crew Karen had to hire take the fence apart plank by plank. She stands in her yard, watching her little monument to control vanish. When the last board's loaded up, she turns and catches my eye through the glass. For a second, I see past the bluster just a tired, beaten woman, her whole world crumbling. Final tally. Karen's looking at $22,000 in city fines, $8,000 for removal and repairs, plus legal fees that put her over $40,000 in the hole. The board even dusted off a rule Karen herself wrote anyone booted for cause can never serve again. As they read her own words back to her, she just crumbles. "But I wrote that rule," she whispers, and you can feel the whole room realize the irony. When she leaves, it's not with a fight, but a quiet click of the door. Thing is, even after all that power shifts, people move on, but the memory sticks around. And you know what? I can't help but wonder, what would have happened if nobody pushed back? How many neighborhoods are still run by folks like Karen, and how many people just take it because it's easier than fighting? Let me hear what you think. Was I right to go nuclear? Do HOAs help communities or just give too much power to the wrong people? Drop your thoughts below. This one's going to spark a debate.